Good morning to all of you. Once again, welcome back. So we are doing a quick recap of whatever we've done since the beginning. And we are trying to look at the CBB model, and you all have answered brilliantly questions. So quick recap of the CBB pyramid. So we try to understand how many blocks are there. 6 blocks, 4 levels corresponding to 4 questions which typically the customers are asking. And which are the sub dimensions of CBB pyramid? Now, what is the meaning of this slide? So we have gone into the details of knowing what comprises of each of the blocks at each of the levels in the customer-based brand equity pyramid. When we talk about these sub dimensions, the detailed dimensions are again mentioned in terms of what should be the focus area of the activities at each of the levels leading to the marketing efforts, guiding the customer-based brand equity building process. And we've seen in the class yesterday with some of the examples like Disney and Nike that brand building happens across the company-wide. It takes all resources possible of the company while trying to offer the brand proposition to the customer. So it's just not making a particular type of a product or variety of a product or a model of a product. It is about inculcating certain principles, going by certain missions, going by certain vision, going by the heritage of the company, the experience of the company, the kind of proposition that the company wants to make through its brand offer for its customers. So we looked at how, for example, the values that Nike considers is all about having the idea that their products and accessories are all meant for people, especially for the fitness purposes. And they say that it is for athletes, but it is not necessarily the competitive sports, but anybody who has a body is an athlete. So basically gearing up towards that. And on the other hand, we saw a different company, Disney, whose, if you look at the screen, the salience dimension, the depth of brand awareness or the breadth of brand awareness is all about entertainment options, good family entertainment options, and they have a variety of brands. We've seen the brand Disney being extended into different categories, including entertainment channels, through which their brand proposition can actually be executed. Right? So what you see in these subsequent slides after the CBB model, dear students, is all about how do you proceed to creating this process of having the brand equity, which arises from keeping the customer at the center focus of the brand. So the brand exists because it has to fulfill a purpose, need satisfaction. It needs to be identified with a category. It needs to be known by customers. And then the next most important thing which is required is the depth and breadth of the importance, which is the product category must be able to be visualized by the customer. They must understand what the brand stands for. It must occur in the top of mind awareness of the brand of the customers in their particular target segment. And there should be sufficient mind share, because only when people can recall a brand, can people remember a brand, will it also go to the next stage of consideration set. So we are trying to understand brand management in the context of customers purchase and consideration context, which means you need to also understand consumer behavior. You also need to understand this entire process of understanding consumers and their purchasing, the journey, rather the consumer purchase or process journey has to be understood in the context of understanding where the brand can actually be fitted in. So brands must not only be top of mind and have sufficient mind share, but it must also do so at the right times and places. Now, why do you think that this brand recall, top of mind awareness of a brand in a customer's mind is important to be able to trigger at the right place at the right time? Why do you think at the right place at the right time, customers must be able to think about a brand? And why should it be the manifesto of a brand that it must be able to come at the top of the mind of a customer at the right place and time? Why do you think this is important? Does it have anything to do with the purchase situation? Do you think being aware about the brand at the right time and at the right place has anything to do with the customer's consideration for purchase? Does it have anything to do with the consumer decision process, the 5 steps of the consumer decision process, if all of you remember from your marketing class? The 5 steps, if you remember, the process of going through the consumer journey could be, first step would be problem recognition. The second step would be information search, right? Evaluation of alternatives. Then you're going through the purchase process and then the post-purchase behavior. So do you think that building a brand in such a way that people are aware of the brand and the brand is so much familiar with the customers that coming on top of the mind, garnering a majority of the mind share, mind you, this is not market share, the mind share of the customer, despite whatever other brands that the customer may be aware of, being able to come on top of the mind of the customer at the right place and the right time has anything to do with the purchase process. Do you think this is important? Will a brand lose out? I'm asking a question. Will a brand lose out if it is not able to be recollected by a customer? Absolutely. Fantastic answer, Santosh. Yes, if this doesn't happen, which is top of mind recall is not happening at the right place at the right time. So Santosh is saying it overrules the substitute product. Yes, if it does, that means if the brand recall can happen such that top of mind recall happens, Santosh is rightly pointing out that it will help that particular brand to overrule the substitute product, which means any competitive product or brand can be overruled as long as a particular brand can take the top of mind awareness in the customer's mind. Very good. Thank you. Ashil Thomas, his answer is, please have a look at the chat box, students. Influences the purchase decision and gives competitive advantage. Thank you so much, Ashil. Thank you. In fact, I'm very happy to see some of the answers actually, even though you are sending 2 words or 3 words answers, but they're actually capturing the key words per se. And I'm very happy to note this in all your answers. So thank you, students. Yes, Ashil Thomas's answer is also another perspective of the same question, which is it influences the purchase decision and gives that brand the competitive advantage. Excellent. Thank you so much, Santosh and Ashil. Very good. Right? Very nice. Omkar is saying, yes, that's a brand response. Brand response, Omkar. I think I was looking at a different answer. Yeah. So Santosh and Ashil have given the 2 latest answers. So I hope you understand why the depth and breadth of brand awareness is required, the importance of that. Next, let us look at the importance of knowing the product category structure. To fully understand brand recall, we need to appreciate product category structure or how product organized in memory. And this is where students, you will appreciate the importance of market research. Researching into the memory structure of customers as to how they perceive different products, because it's important to understand that the way people think is inside their minds, and only when you can use certain qualitative research techniques like projective techniques or you're using such qualitative research techniques like as in a focus group discussion or in-depth interviews, or you are going and trying to do qualitative research techniques using story completion technique, right? Or completing a sentence kind of a thing, you really come to understand how people think. So many times you will not be able to capture all these insights. Customer insights cannot be elicited only with the quantitative based research. So sometimes exploratory research using qualitative research techniques are very much required to understand how people think, because the neural network of people, the way people think in their minds is so very complex that it is very essential to understand that no 2 people will think alike. Yet you have to understand the reality, which is to know and comprehend how do people think about different product categories, right? Because structure that people are going to come up with as long as they are going to be part of the social context of business transactions, that is, they're going to be part and parcel of the process of interacting in business exchanges between companies and themselves to procure products and services for their use or their family's use or for their intermediate use, people are going to start thinking about products and services. And no matter whatever would be the marketing efforts made by companies, the efforts these are always external to the customer. They are always on the outside of the customer. What the customer thinks, how he thinks, what he takes as information, how he processes it, is all part of his cognitive structure, that is his thinking process. That's why psychology is a very important aspect of consumer behavior, psychology in terms of how people think. The next thing which is very important to understand in this context is the sociological aspects, which means how people or how the society interacts. And then the social, the psychosocial interaction, which means how the society influence how people think and how do people also influence society in return, right? The last but not the least is definitely the cultural aspect, which is the anthropological aspect of the context in a market, which means people's ethnicity, people's cultural beliefs, their value systems, their principles, these also affect. So the entirety of a customer within the social context is something that has to be in order to understand how people think, how they are actually perceiving the different stimuli in the market. All right, just like how you see things when you wake up early in the morning, the moment you start waking up, you are perceiving so many things, certain light stimuli is coming, you are perceiving certain objects. Similar to that, among the many things that people perceive are also the marketing stimuli, the brand stimuli, the product stimuli. Stimuli means those inputs into the senses of people, make them perceive something, right? So stimulus is a singular aspect, and more than one, which is the plural aspect of stimulus, is stimuli. So as people perceive different kinds of input to their senses, these are going to affect the way that they think. So when walking into a restaurant, for example, or a coffee corner, the aroma of coffee is an input into the senses, that is all sensory stimuli. Now, how that affects customers to think, maybe to aspire or to long for a hot cup of cappuccino or coffee, is all to do about the product category structure. Means you want to really consume coffee, or you want to sit down and have a good time having coffee and some snacks. So companies like Barista or Cafe Coffee Day, when they do marketing, they always try to project certain aspects about the consumption experience. So product category structure, understanding how it is perceived in the minds of the customer itself, is a very, very elaborate process. And why is it important to understand the product category structure? Because according to that only, your customers will be placing different brands, including yours, in that context when they start considering or they start thinking or contemplating about the brand. Because the first step which will occur in the consumer decision process is the cognitive step, the thinking. Then there will be situations where people will start feeling about it. So cognitive is the first, then there will be affective stage of the process leading to the behavioral outcome, which could be the choice or preference or purchase of that particular brand. Right? If it is a service, it is about patronizing the service. So product category structure visualization, the contextualization of that category is very important, because according to that, different brands which are depicted or which customers consider in that product category would then become your competitor. All right, so it's very important to understand not only from the product's point of view or the company's point of view who are your competitors, but you also need to consider from the customer's point of view right? So for example, if somebody is contemplating to travel for their new year to a certain destination for vacation, and they would like to understand how they can actually travel? Should they take the road? Should they take the roadway? That is, should they travel by road or should they take the flight? All right. So now the aviation companies could think that perhaps an Indigo would think that a SpiceJet is their competitor. Vista Air could be their competitor. Another airline could be the competitor. So the airline companies, if they're only thinking about only aviation companies as a competitor for the flight tickets that are going to be purchased by customers, that would be really a narrow view of the product category structure. But if they really understand that the aviation, that is flight tickets, would also be competing perhaps with the travel option of going by the train, rail option. So that rail option, that booking the tickets through IRCTC for various travels, maybe by train, is also a competitive option for the customer. The other option also could be customers could travel by vehicles on road. So they could take their bus, but maybe they could travel in their own car. So customer typically would be having various options to satisfy his need. In this case, the example we are considering is travel option, traveling, going from one place to another, traveling from one destination to another. And we are saying that the option is not just flight travel. All right, and we are assuming a certain distance, say above 200 kilometers, so which, or 300 kilometers, something like that, which you will typically have connectivity by air, road, and rail. So the airline companies need not think that only aviation companies are their competitors, but their competitors can come from different category like a railway or a bus or road travel options also. So product category structure needs to be understood in the minds of the customers from the point of view of need satisfaction, and just not get restricted only to the product type or a product variety or option, right? If you do that, then you are being myopic, which means you are having a short-sighted view of the competition. All right, so do not be myopic when you are considering product category structure. All right, the other example of cross category would also mean that, for example, if you are planning for a vacation versus whether you would like to spend the same amount of money in buying a bike or a car, right? So this money that you have, or the budget that you have finance, the category that might be competing in your mind is whether to go and spend it for a vacation at a place outside of your choice, of your and your family's choice, or would you like to rather invest that amount of money to buy something, some asset product. It could be an asset or a liability. For example, if you're buying a vehicle is a depreciating product, so we do not normally consider that as an asset. But if you're buying a real estate or you're buying a house or land, normally these are appreciating in nature, and therefore we consider that as an asset product, right? Which is appreciating. Most of the cases they're appreciating in nature. Should not there be some kind of a cyclical, depletion of the value, the capital structure value. So the competition in this case, in this latter case, could be the view of the customer considering whether, for example, to spend a lakh of rupees or 2 lakhs rupees or 3 lakh rupees, whatever is the amount of money that they're thinking, to travel option, or should I spend it into buying some property. So in this case, what happens? You are going to consider different kinds of brands across different categories. So people, you need to understand, students of marketing, that the realistic aspect is consumers will always consider products and brands as part of their consideration set for purchase and choice option for things which are going to suit and complete their need satisfaction. So it's very important to have a realistic view of the customer's decision-making process and how things work out in their memory. And as far as memory management is considered, you also need to understand and appreciate that there could be short-term memory and long-term memory of customers. So short-term memory would be those aspects, activities which the customer would have done, and it is retained in their memory in the short term, which they can recall and relive the experience. So anything good which has happened with a brand or a product, they're satisfied with it, they're delighted with it, they would go with the short-term memory and say that, yes, that gave me a really very good experience. Let me, if I have to rebuy the category, if I have to repurchase the product, let me go with the same brand. On the other hand, this short-term memory can also lead to instances where if there was a bad experience with the product, that could also be recalled from memory and would inform the customer that a particular brand perhaps was not very, did not give a very satisfactory output or result, and therefore they would choose to not patronize that particular service category or brand, and they would choose to switch over to a new brand. Right? Long-term memory would be those activities which go into the memory over time, maybe by repetition. These go into the long-term memory, and if certain things are not revised, people might even forget certain experiences, certain instances. So anything which may not be repeated, which may not be recalled, as you know by studying also, if you are not revising certain concepts and all that, it might tend, you might tend to forget that. And when something is not being recalled from memory for a long time, not only forgetting, but it might also become extinct, which means a person would not even remember or would not even realize that the person knew about such a thing. So therefore, the repetition, that's why fast moving consumer goods typically would tend to highlight what you see on the screen, their performance dimensions, their characteristics, their features, about their reliability, durability, everything. Fast moving consumer goods, especially those goods which are of a very short nature duration in the customer's usage cycle, such companies would tend to repeat their advertisements or brand marketing communications so that they are continuously available to the customer in terms of getting the information. Even beyond the fast moving consumer goods, for high involvement products also, where people invest a lot of money, effort and time to purchase products or to consider products, and they're looking at value for money, they're looking at reliability of the product, because maybe the product per se is something that they don't understand the functioning or yeah, I hope you can see the slides again. So why do people go with the type of products that they know about or the brands that they know about? Because it's all about understanding the performance or going with the reliability of the brand, as the product per se. The detailed description of the product or the composition or the manufacturing details of the product is not something that can be comprehensible by the customers in general. So they depend on the brand, right? So these are very important thing. And one of the aspects also about different kinds of products and brands would be the service aspect of a brand, especially products which are also dependent on after sales service in order to increase the efficiency of the product. Should the product efficiency fall with usage and the requirement for maintenance. So service effectiveness matters, service efficiency and empathy. You would recall how LG in the market had created or has been creating a lot of efforts in terms of creating very good after sales service through its service engineers. So has the company Eureka Forbes, Samsung, whose various electronic products are very heavily dependent on service, after sales service, which right from the installation stage to any kind of breakdown or any kind of requirements to service warranty details are required. So these service outlets are very important, and the people who service these kind of items or products, their performance in handling and solving the customer requirements efficiently, effectively the first time is of utmost importance. And this service effectiveness also drives majority of the brand purchase and preference for these categories as well. So it's not important only for the customer when they purchase such kind of electronic items or say automobiles, not only to consider the brand per se of which the brands are there for the products, but also how good and efficient are the service centers. That is why you will see, I was showing you the JD Power survey, customer survey, which shows one aspect of the quality aspect, which typically Hyundai and Maruti typically talk about how they are rated well and they are number one in their customer service. So service effectiveness, the efficiency, and the empathy, the understanding with which the service personnel deal with the customer's requirements are an important performance dimension of a brand. The last two aspects, which are about style and design, is very important because that also dictates the look, feel, functionality, the performance dimension of the product. And last but not the least would be the price of the product, because the price actually is the amount of money that the customers are willing to pay for a particular brand offer from a company. And when customers are giving out a certain amount of money, they are thinking about what kind of value do I really get out of this proposition. And when you talk about value, the value perception is in the minds of the customer, which means what is the benefit that I'm getting and how much of this benefit is over and above the cost element that I'm actually shelling out. So cost element could be not only the financial amount, but also the time, effort, and the psychological investment of the customer towards patronizing a particular product or brand, but also the effort of going out and seeking that particular product and brand and getting it to the customer. That's why these days the online the e-commerce platforms have taken off so well, because people are able to do a lot of the consumer searching and evaluation of products at very, very economical prices, and they're able to do that with the utmost efficiency and able to do that at the comfort of their home without need to travel, because traveling also requires a lot of time, effort, and cost as well, money as well to travel. So they're able to do that at the comfort of their home and feel that they're able to evaluate a lot of options and finally pay for that particular product or brand which they feel is going to satisfy their benefits the most. So value proposition, which is about benefits minus cost, is something that is going to be evaluated by the customer in terms of the price that they pay. Now, various aspects of this pricing is also important from the performance dimension of the brand, because whether you're going to charge the price at one point, or are you going to allow customers to also buy in credit? Are you going to allow customers to buy in equated monthly installments? Can they buy now, pay later? How much of that buy now, pay later needs to be actually transacted at the given point of time? So all of these dimensions about pricing is something that will be affecting the performance dimension of the brand. The next thing that we have seen with various examples in prior classes also is about the imagery dimensions of the brand, which means what imagery dimensions? We've looked at practical examples, which is user profile. So proposition, different types of users that are there for the brand. So you saw how Disney was focusing on the family aspect, while you saw Nike yesterday when I showed you, they were focusing on the aspect about serving the needs of athletes or fitness requirements, right? We've seen in a prior class about products which are to do with detergents and beauty and personal care products from Hindustan Unilever and other FMCG companies. The user profiles are different. So you could have a celebrity endorsement being done for a product like Lux, and you could have a non-celebrity endorsement being done for product like a premium product like Dove. And the user profiles basically create a kind of imagery in the minds of the customers, based on which customers are able to understand, okay, this product is actually going to be consumed by someone like me. So the user dimension could also be something which is an actual profile of the user that they are intending, or it could also mean or indicate an inspirational or aspirational profile. You've also seen with the marketing of the products from Nike, for example, the different diversity of customer types, the inclusiveness. So people of different ethnicities are being portrayed in the brand communication, which means you don't try to stereotype your consumer profile, the demographic and the psychographic characteristics. So you try to depict what is the reality. You the different ethnicities and the different nationalities and different skin color and different types of customers, which might also include people who are also not so well able. So people with different different abilities rather, who can also be portrayed to be users of the brand. So you become sensitive to the community's requirement, the social requirement, the market's requirement, and you tune your user profiling creatives toward that aspect. The purchase and usage situations would basically try to mean which are the stores or which are the channels to which your product can be attained. And if you're going to use a product which is required on a frequent basis, do make it a point to let customers know about where and how they can access it. So this is again about the channel management, about how people can access the different products across their timelines of requirement. The third aspect is about personality and values. That is where I told that there could be different types of qualities of personality that can be portrayed in a brand, so that brand and customer connect can happen with values like sincerity, excitement, competence, sophistication, and roughness. So we've seen, like, for example, a brand like Nike is focusing more on the ruggedness, the toughness of the fitness requirements, and so be it their shoes or be it their, the athletic requirements that are there for the different products are focusing on that aspect. But whereas if you see a brand like, for example, Disney, it's focusing more on the excitement aspect, about fun and entertainment aspect, and the history, heritage, and experience. So these are the judgment dimensions, which is about how people are going to form the judgments based on the brand quality, the values, the satisfaction derived, the brand consideration, all of that. And you've seen that with implementation, with actual examples that we've seen in different companies, ITC, HUL, Hyundai, you've seen with the different banking financial services companies. So they all lead to different brand aspect, which basically means, is it relevant for the customers? They're going to judge you based on that. They're going to judge you on the credibility, which is credibility. Sub-dimensions would be expertise, trustworthiness, and likability, which we've discussed. And we've talked about brand superiority and differences. What are the feeling dimensions? The feelings of warmth, fun, excitement, security, social approval, and self-respect, which we also saw in the previous class as well with different examples. And resonance dimensions would mean to do with loyalty, attitudinal attachment, sense of community, and active engagement, right? And this is what the CBBE model is all about. So what is CBBE model? It is it's the abbreviation of customer-based brand equity model. Have a look at how the model looks like. Right? Pyramid, triangle, 4 levels, 6 blocks, different dimensions side. Now you see on the right side a little different from what you've been seeing in the previous classes, which is in place of the 4 questions that are asked by customers, look at certain key aspects about brand management per se. So corresponding to brand salience, let me see if I will annotate this so that you all are able to link it. Give me a moment. Are you able to see the arrow here? I've put an arrow at the bottom of the pyramid. And the arrow is red in color. So brand salience is corresponding to the deep, broad brand awareness that needs to be created. The second level of the brand model, okay, is about brand performance and imagery, which basically has to do with identifying the points of parity, the POP. This is not point of purchase, points of parity, which is a similarity. So it's a set of similarity between your brand or a particular brand and other competitive brands, right? Similarity and points of differences, POD. All right. So the second level of the CBB pyramid has to do with these two aspects. What are the two aspects? POP and POD. POP is point of parity, similarity with other brands, because it's not only important to be only different from others, you also need to do certain things which others are doing, definitely doing those things which is a bare minimum for the features and characteristics of the product or service to be able to fulfill the need, and something more. So all mobile phones will serve the basic purposes, which is to have mobile communication, right? The ability to connect in a mobile network is something that is the feature of all mobile phones. So it's a point of parity with other mobile phone brands. There could be enormous number of points of difference between a particular model of a brand compared to another competitive brand and a particular model. So the POP and the POD is something that has to be developed here, understood in order to be able to satisfy the second level of the CBB pyramid, which is the customer-based brand equity model relating to brand performance and brand imagery. So identify how you are similar to others, and then also identify how you're different from others. The third level of the brand, the customer-based brand equity model, is to do with the judgments and feelings. And here you need to, and I'm moving the arrow here, which is you need to look at the rational and emotional reactions. Why rational? The rational is the consumer judgments, right? If you see the consumer judgments here, what is it going to be made up of? It's going to be made up of those aspects, features, and characteristics that are going to influence the objective evaluation of the brand, right? So it could be about a shoe, it could be about the type, the material of the shoe, the specification of the shoe, and all of that. It could also go to indicate to what extent the shoe is made for, if it is for walking, if the shoe is differently made because it is meant for jogging versus something which is made for playing tennis on a lawn court, or is it going to be made for something to play on a, a clay court, or is it a shoe that is going to be made for footballers who need spikes and stuff like that. So these are things which you can judge, evaluate on a very objective basis. What are consumer feelings on the other hand? I think consumer judgment is very rational, which can be made with several specifications, and they're very, very objectively can be evaluated. The consumer feelings are more emotional, more subjective things. So that's how you see brand communications. Say we talked about, toothpaste ads depicting people in a very happy situation, flashing their white teeth and smiling away very confidently and being able to socialize, all of these. So these imageries create consumers' emotions about feeling very good associated with a brand. That's why you see those ads wherein you're using or you're consuming Coca-Cola or a Pepsi, or you're consuming some carbonated beverage, or you are munching on chips and you're having a good time, right? So these are the emotional reactions that have to be created. So these are the third level dimensions. And the final level dimension is to do with the intense and active loyalty, which is to be about creating brand resonance, right? So therefore, what you see on the screen right now are the different activities on the right side, which will be pertaining to creating the brand equity development process. Let us look at some of the key drivers of brand equity before we close today's class. So some of the aspects of the brand performance, brand judgment, resonance, and imagery can be tabbed, and you can have a tracking of the aspects and see which brand is actually doing well. Because finally, what you see on the screen right now is the implication. What is the implication? Brand building has certain implications, and you cannot ignore the reality of such a thing. So that you need to be really aware of. Certain things which you need to be aware of is that customers own your brand. You might do a variety of activities that is from the external aspect, but they are still external to the customer. Customers need to own the brand. internalize the brand. They need to be connected to the brand. They need to be emotionally connected to the brand in such a way that they consider that brand as part of their personal set of, whether you talk about companionship or friendliness, or part of their social existence. So they must be able to own the brand, and owning the brand is much more than the judgment or the rational aspect of considering the brand. It is more to do with the emotional connect. It's like building friends. It's just not who is good in whatever aspects and who has how much of money or qualification, but it's whether you really trust that a person as your friend, whether you can rely on the friend, whether the person is reliable, trustworthy, credible, and all of these. Brand building implication is also that you cannot take shortcuts with brands because they will not work out. That is why people talk about sustainable activities to brand building. Sustainable. You cannot think short term, extremely short term in a brand building process. It takes a little bit of time. And brands should have a duality in terms of the approach, in terms of the meaning that people can construe out of the product, in terms of the purpose in which it is existing. It should also have richness in terms of the meaning that people construe out of it in terms of its existence. And brand resonance provides that important focus, which is that long-term perspective without compromising on a short-term set of activities. And therefore, the aspect which you will see recurring in all brand marketeers would be about creating customer value. What is customer value in this case? Where the customer brand relationships are the foundation of brand resonance and building a strong brand. So the customer and brand relationships, how you create that, everybody knows about this concept, but which marketer can create that connect better than others is the essence of creating customer value. So do have a look at how Jeff Bezos, created this customer value, and the journey of creating customer value in Amazon, for example, a globally acknowledged brand, how the journey has been. Have a look at how Flipkart has done it in our own country, trying to replicate the same model. Look at how Airbnb has done the aspects about the creation of shared lodgings. See how the same concept has been utilized by Ritesh Agarwal in Oyo. So creating customer value is about thinking about what customers would need, that kind of value proposition around a set of offers. You could also look at the various aggregating models which are there for e-commerce companies. You could look at Ola, the Ubers, and you could look at a variety of the, say, for example, Swiggy's and Zomato, and see how customer value creation is actually occurring as a result of understanding this customer brand relationships. And this customer-based brand equity model definitely puts that notion that customers are important and are at the central point of any brand management process. This is why the CBB model is actually very pertinent, because at every stage you're looking and you're keeping your vision focused towards the customer. And one thing you may have all noticed, students, is that in all the examples of the companies that we've seen, all the cases of the companies that we've seen, right from ITC or Hyundai, or for example yesterday's Disney or Nike, is the perennial tune that you will see is the tonality to match the customer's requirement, the important impetus given to focusing on the customer, the important objective of keeping the customer at the center. So therefore, customer-based brand equity model puts this notion of customer at the center and creating value for the customer at the core aspect of the company's operation. Right? So these are some of the questions that can be considered when you as a marketer or any company can contemplate on to consider whether a company is really consumer centric or not. So questions like, is the company looking for ways to take care of you? Does the company know its customers well enough to differentiate between them? Because no two customers are going to be the same. People are different, qualities are different, human nature is different. So does the company know how to understand the customer or have the customer insight? Customer insight itself is a huge kind of a study altogether, and it's very dynamic and it changes. Contemporarily relevant insights you need, fast enough, agile, such that the company can be agile enough to respond to the changes? Is someone accountable for customers? Is the customer company managed for shareholder value only, or is it also managed for other values? Would be, is the company test offers and learning from the results, which means, are you continuously striving to make yourself more relevant to customers in an ever-changing world where consumer needs and preferences might remain the same, but the offers that are coming out in the market could be a variety, and there are versatile efforts being made by companies across the world. So with this, we'll finish today's class, and if you have any kind of doubts, you can just let me know. So I think there's no question as such in the chat box. If you have any kind of doubts, of course, the LMS is there, right? And kindly keep revising the concepts that we've gone through so far. So we have looked at today the CBV model in all its dimensions, and we've looked at the customer centricity focus, and we've also seen some of the key questions that can guide companies to understand whether they're really customer centric or not. So we will end today's class here and resume in the next class. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on time, and thanks for being so participative. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.